Good afternoon and welcome to our virtual class in your subject BAMN 6004, and that is personal finance. Our discussion today is on the week 2 module, and that is personal financial planning. And I'm your professor, Susan Maminta from AMA East Rizal branch. In our discussion today, the learning objectives are for you to know the factors that strongly influences financial thinking. Identify the micro and macro factors that affect financial planning. Trace the steps of the financial planning process and explain why the process needs to be repeated over time. And identify the professions of financial advisors. A personal financial planning means a process of gathering and analyzing financial data. So what are the financial data under this financial planning activity? And these are your data for the sources of your income, and as well as the expenses, a list of all your expenses. In financial planning, there must be an individual goal. You have that plan because you have that goal. And in addition to that, strategies must be included in this financial planning to address some specific areas of your personal finance. What are the micro factors that we are talking under this financial planning that would affect our financial thinking? And these are the family structure, health, career choice, and your age. Our financial thinking will be affected if we have that big members of the family. If you are not healthy, of course, you cannot work. But maintaining to be healthy means cost. So that is the reason why this must be included in your financial plan. Your career choice is also a matter in this financial planning, as this is the sources of your income. Having more than one income means having more savings. As you age, you have different perspective in life, especially in our financial. When you're young, you're not thinking about your retirement. But when you reach the middle age, that's the time you're now thinking, what will you be when you are already retired from work? Another factor is the macro. Under these macro factors, this is other term as systematic factors that affects our financial thinking. These macro factors is a complex or has complexity because it's about a broad scope of your environment. And these factors are in your business cycles, employment rate, and currency values. A business cycles is important in our financial planning as it affects our income and even our expenditures. Having a GDP in an economy that is increasing, that means the economy is in an expansion situation. And when it is decreasing, the GDP, the economy is in a contraction situation. Having an economy that is in this situation, that is contraction for half a year, then it is said to be in recession. And a prolonged recession means depression. Business cycles has this cyclical nature of market economists. Cyclical because that is a cycle. A business is not always that you are in the peaks. You can have this peak, but you can also have this stroke. Or you can have a boom and bust economy, growth and contraction, and as well as expansion and correction. Employment rate as a macro factors that would affect our financial thinking because this is about unemployment rate. This unemployment rate is a measure of an economy's shortcomings. Having a good employment rate, that means the participation rate of the labor force, then it shows how successful an economy is. I have here classed the cyclical economic effects. What would be the economic effects to us if we have this boom economy? Boom economy, this is good. And if we have that, that means the GDP is high and rate of unemployment is low. And if we have this expansion, we have a positive GDP and a natural or minimal rate of unemployment. For recession, that is a negative GDP already and a higher unemployment rate. And for a depression, of course, again, it is very, very low GDP and a very, very high unemployment rate. Currency value is also a factor in macro because this affects our purchasing power. And if the country has this stable currency value, means that our country has this healthy economy. We are on the currency value, but we are measuring the usefulness of our money in base or that is based on what it can buy. As the value of currency decreases, that means inflation. And when the value of a currency is increasing or strong, then we have deflation. That means prices are falling. So with those micro and macro factors that must be considered in our plans, then planning must have a process. And in planning process, you always start with defining your goal. Defining your goal and use that SMART model is a good practice in doing your financial plan. As this SMART model means their goal must be specific. It should be measurable. It should be attainable. And it should be realistic, not just a mere wishful. And it should be time-bounded. If you have already defined your goal, then you are ready to proceed to the next step, and that is assessing yourself. Assessing yourself on where are you now and what will you be in the future. And then after that, you're ready to identify your choices and evaluating these choices and before you make your choice. Using that choice or applying that in your life, that should not be, should not end on that step, because you have to proceed to another step, and that is assessing the resulting situation. If the result is not favorable or you're not successful in your goal, then you can redefine your goal to the next period of your financial. And again, after redefining, you again identify the different choices and evaluate these choices and before you do your selection. And again, you will not stop there after choosing your option. What is important is you assess the results. And again, if that result is not favorable, you can always repeat and repeat and repeat over and over again. I have here an example of your goal, a very simple goal that is defined, a well-defined goal in terms of time, in terms of the sources of finances. If you have that goal of reducing your debt, and this is only a short-term goal, and you know very well what will be the sources of that payment for this debt. And in our example here, the payment will come from your wages or salary. And having an intermediate or medium-term goal, and it is already accumulation of assets, and that is already your wealth. And in doing this, you know very well that you have the sources of finances for this accumulation of assets, and that is your wages or your salary. And for a long-term goal, and an example of this is already a retirement income. That's the reason why it is long-term. Then you can only have this goal if you know that you have this investment in the future. Because at this time, when you are already retired, no more salary, no more wages for you. So this investment that you have while you're still young, you're doing your savings, And for that, you are able to have your investment that you can use for your retirement age. Now, after having this financial plan and knowing the sources of your income, and knowing that there is a model to be used in order to achieve your goal, then it is good for you or easy for you to achieve your financial goal in life, and that is having a very successful personal finances. So with that, I'm now giving you my last slide, and that's the end of my discussion, and thank you for listening.